Hello, this is Sudhir Kumar Devedi, Assistant Professor of Law from Gemtech School of Law, Greater Noida. And the topic for today's lecture is confession under the subject Law of Evidence. So, first of all, let's see what is the meaning of the confession. The expression confession means a statement made by an accused admitting his guilt. It is an admission as to commission of an offense. If a person accused of an offense makes a statement against himself, it is called confession or the confessional statement. Confessions are the special form of admission. Thus, it is properly said all the confessions are admission, but all the admission are not confession. So the term meaning of the confession declare that confession is admission of a crime by a person who is accused of a crime. Admission, let's see what is the definition of the confession. According to Sir James Stephen, who has drafted the Indian Evidence Act 1872, according to him, an admission made at any time by person charged with a crime, stating or suggesting the inference that he committed the crime. So if we analyze the definition of the Sir James Stephen, we find that confession is also a statement, and such statement is made by a person who has been charged for a crime, and such statement is suggesting an inference that he has committed the crime. And if we see the Indian Evidence Act, we find that the definition of the confession has not been given in the Indian Evidence Act. Confession is not defined anywhere in the Act. But the definition of the admission under Section 17 of the Indian Evidence Act become applicable to confession also. Section 17 provides that a statement, oral or documentary, which suggests an inference as to any fact in issue or relevant fact. So, as per this definition of admission, we know that a statement which is oral or documentary suggesting any inference regarding any fact in issue is regarding any relevant fact is admission. And when such statement is regarding the admission of an offense, then generally that admission is considered as a confession. So it can be understood like this, that if the statement is made by a party in civil proceeding, it is called as admission, while if it is made by a party who has been charged in a crime in a criminal proceeding, it is called a confession. Thus it can be said that the confession is a statement made by a person who has been charged with a crime, and such statement is suggesting an inference as to any fact in issue or as to relevant fact. The inference that the statement should suggest that he is guilty of a crime. So if anyone is making an statement, and by that statement if it can be inferred that the person who is making the statement has committed the crime, then it is called the confession. In short, it can be said that a confession is an admission by the accused charged with an offense in the criminal proceeding. Let's try to understand by some example. Suppose if one Mr. X is charged with the murder of Y, and if Y said that I have killed V, it is a confession, because from his statement it can be inferred that Mr. I has committed the murder of B. Likewise, in a case Pakala Narayan, and sometime some called it as a Pakla Narayan, Swami versus Emperor, in which Lord Atkin observes that confession must either be admitted in context of an offense or in relation with any substantial facts which inaugurate the offense with criminal proceeding, and an admission of serious wrongdoing, even conclusively incriminating fact, is not itself a confession. So in this case, Lord Atkin described that if a statement is falling if statement will fall in the category of confession only when if it is a direct admission of the commission of the crime, or it is the admission of the substantial fact which suggests that the crime has been committed by that person who is making the statement. In the same way, there are two more leading cases. One is Palvinder Kaur versus State of Punjab, and another is the Nishikant Jha versus State of Bihar. In Palvinder Kaur versus State of Punjab, the Supreme Court held that firstly the definition of confession only comes to exist only when the statement conferring the admission that he is either guilty of any offense, or the admission is probating all the facts which constitute the offense, and secondly when the statement has different qualities and contains such a mixture of confessional statement which conclude to the acquittal of the person making the confession, then such statement cannot be considered as a confession. So as per this judgment, the in Palvinder Kaur versus State of Punjab, Supreme Court make it very clear that the confessional statement must be regarding the admission of the crime, or admitting the substantive fact which is suggesting that the crime has been committed. If it is a mixture of both, then it cannot be considered as a confession. However, in Nishikant Jha versus State of Bihar, the Supreme Court highlighted that there is no wrong on relying some part of the statement confessed by the accused and neglecting the other part. The court has traced out this concept from English law, and when court in its capacity understood that it has enough evidence to neglect the exculpatory part of the confession, then it may rely on the inculpatory part of the such confession. Here the inculpatory part means the part, the statement which is suggesting that the person has committed the crime, and the exculpatory part means the statement which is suggesting that the person has not committed the crime. And if accused is making a statement which is including both exculpatory and inculpatory statement, inculpatory and exculpatory statement, and if the court is in situation by appreciating other evidence that it can separate the exculpatory and inculpatory part of the statement, then court may rely on the inculpatory part of the statement. Now let's see, as we in the initial part of this lecture we I said one statement that all confession are admission, but not all admission are confession. The reason behind that, since the definition of the admission is also applicable to that of confession, and confession comes under the topic of admission, it can be inferred that admission is a broader term and it covers confessions. Hence, all the confessions are admission, but not all admissions are confession. Reason being, if any fact in a statement is falling under the category of the confession, then it must have all the ingredients of the admission. All the ingredients of the admission. That's why it is also said that the admission is a genus and the confession is a species. Reason being, once the to fall the statement in the category of the confession, it has to fulfill the requirement of the admission, because the only difference is that while admission is regarding the commission of the crime, then that admission is known as a confession. That's why it is said that all the admission is not a confession, because admission may be regarding a civil matter, but when the confession is always about a criminal matter, and it will include all the ingredients, all the requirement of the admission. That's why this is a fact, statement is true that all confessions are admission, but not all admissions are confession. Now let's see, when is a confession relevant. There are certain sections which deal with the relevancy of the confessional statement, and it has been given from 24 to 27, 24, 25, 26, and relevant part of section 27 of the Indian Evidence Act deals with the condition at when confession become irrelevant, and section 24 make it clear that a confession made by an accused person is relevant in criminal proceeding if the confession appears to the court to have been caused by any inducement, threat, or promise, and such inducement, threat, or promise has come from a person who is in authority and sufficient in the opinion of the court to give the accused person a grounds which would appear to him reasonable for supposing that by making it he would gain any advantage or avoid any evil of a temporal nature in reference to the proceeding against him. So as per section 24 of the Indian Evidence Act, it can be understood like this, that if the confession is made out on inducement, threat, or promise, and such inducement, threat, or promise has come from an authority, and such inducement and threat or promise is relating to a charge, and by such inducement or promise the person who is making a confession was of the belief that he will get some temporal advantage regarding the offense, and after that such confession has been made out, then that confession would be irrelevant. In the same way, section 25 of the Indian Evidence Act provides that no statement made to a police officer shall be considered as a confession for the purpose of proving that confession against that person who is accused of the case. Section 25 very specifically make it clear that if the confession has been made to a police officer, then that confession will not be used against the person who has made the confession to the police officer. In the same way, if the confession has, as per section 27 or 26 of the Indian Evidence Act, no confession made by any person whilst he is in the custody of a police officer, unless it be made in the immediate presence of the magistrate, shall be proved as against such person. You can say that section 26 is the further extension of the section 25, And as per this section, even if the confession has not been made to the police officer, but the confession has been made while the accused was in the custody of the police officer, then also that confession will not be admitted. But there is a one exception, that if the person is in the custody of the police officer and the confession has been made in the presence of the magistrate, then that confession will be admissible and that will be relevant. Section 27 of the Indian Evidence Act is may be considered as an exception to the section 25 and 26, which make it clear that, which provides, you can say that it is a proviso to the section 25 and 26, which provides that when any fact is deposed to as discovered in consequence of information received from a person accused of any offense in the custody of the police officer, so much of such information, whether it amounts to confession or not, as it relates to the fact thereby discovered, may be proved. So, as per section 27, if any statement has been made by the accused and on the basis of which some discovery has been made, then it has been declared that though that statement may fall in the category of the confession, but that point, that statement on the basis of which is something has been recovered related to the case, will be admission, or sorry, will be admissible, will be relevant. Suppose there is a accused who is in the custody of the police and he is making a statement before the police officer that I have committed the, I have killed the that I killed the Mr. B, and I have put the knife in a sacred place with which I have committed the murder of Mr. B. And this portion, that I have kept the knife at a sacred place, is a discoverable statement, and I found that statement, on the basis of that statement the knife is discovered from that particular place, then this portion, only this part, that I have put the knife in at a sacred place, is relevant and is admissible. But the portion that I have committed the murder of Mr. B is not acceptable, is not admissible, because it is avoided by the section 26 of the Indian Evidence Act. And on this point, Pandurang Kalu Patil versus State of Maharashtra is a leading case in which it has been described very well that how the discovery statement is uh, admissible. Now let's see, under section 28 of the Indian Evidence Act, it has been made clear that if such a confession as is referred to in section 24 is made after the impression caused by any such inducement, threat, or promise has, in the opinion of the court, been fully removed, is relevant. So, you can say section 28 is a further extension of the 24, as section 24 declaring that if the admission has been caused by threat or promise, and such a promise has been from the person who is in authority, and there was some belief in the mind of the accused that he will get some temporal advantage, then that would not be relevant. But as per section 28, it has been made clear that if the inducement, threat, or promise has been removed and it is not existing, and after that the person is making the statement, making a confession, that confession would be relevant. And in the same way, section 29 of the Indian Evidence Act make it clear that if the confession is otherwise relevant, it will not be become irrelevant because the promise of secrecy and etc. Suppose a person has made a confession on the promise that it will be kept secret, it will not be disclosed, and one person make the admission, then that confession is admissible before the court. The only requirement is that such admission, such confession should not be in the before the to the police officer or in the custody of the police officer. In the same way, let's see the section 30 of the Indian Evidence Act talks about the confession affecting person making it and others jointly under trial for the same offense. So section 30 talks about the situation when the confession has been made by co-accused. So it has been declared by this section that when more persons than one are being tried jointly for the same offense and a confession made by one of such person affecting himself and some other of such persons is proved, the court may take into consideration such confession as against such other person as well as against the person who makes such confession. So it is a general, you can say, declaration that if the co-accused has made a confession, it may be taken into consideration by the court, but it is very much clear that it may be taken consideration, but it can't be the sole basis of the punishment of the sole basis of the punishment. Let's see an example. A and B are jointly tried for the murder of C. It is proved that A said B and I murdered C. The court may consider the effect of this confession as against B as well. But it will not be a conclusive proof. It may be just be a supporting statement. If there are other evidence indicating that point, then only that can be, you can say, supportive statement. It will not be a sole basis of the punishment. However, this statement is relevant. That's all about the confession. Thank you.